Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Africa EdTech 50. My name is Patrick Brothers, co-CEO of HolonOQ, and I'm joined by Krista Davidson, the Executive Head at Ingenie. Krista, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Wonderful to have you again, second year in a row. It's so great to work with you and your team on this project. So for all of you who have joined us from around the world and from across Africa, we have an exciting, jam-packed 45-minute agenda ahead of us. I'll make some brief welcoming remarks. I'll hand over to Krista to share more about Ingenie and some of the innovation that Krista is seeing across the region. We'll touch on our methodology before we announce the Africa EdTech 50. We'll look at some of the different slices and statistics around the 50 this year before my favorite part of this session, when we will meet and hear from 4 leaders of the EdTech 50 and the work that they're doing and impact that they're having across the region as well. Really briefly, for those of you who aren't familiar with HolonOQ, we are an impact intelligence platform. We work in education, healthcare, and climate to help power decisions that matter. We're based in New York with teams in Sydney, Oxford, and around the world, not yet in Africa, but we're working on it. We have some incredible customers, investors, NGOs, not-for-profits, some leading organizations around the world whom we're very lucky to support in their own focus on impact as well. I'm going to hand over to Krista to share a little bit more about Ingenie and about Sub-Saharan Africa.
Sure. Thanks, Patrick. And hi, everyone. Welcome. I am, as Patrick said, the executive head at Ingenie, which, for those of you who don't know, was founded in 2017 as Africa's first and only EdTech specialized incubator. We've now transitioned a bit and changed our model, so we're operating more as an accelerator than an incubator, but I'll get to that in a minute. But for now, if you don't know us, all you really need to know is that Ingenie exists for the sole purpose of improving educational outcomes across Sub-Saharan Africa. So we do that by working with really high potential EdTech entrepreneurs, like some of those you'll meet today, and hopefully accelerating their work, really optimizing their impact, and helping them to get to the next stage of development so that they can make a real difference in the space. So we really prioritize access, relevance, and quality of education in everything we do. And we really narrowed down our focus to work with companies that are directly impacting children between the ages of 0 and 18. So that means operating within the early childhood development space, K through 12 learning, and then a bit of teacher training as well, as that has such a big influence on educational outcomes in that section. So as you can see on the screen, Ingenie's been around for a while now, and we've gotten a quite significant footprint across the region. So we are truly Pan-African, working with companies that represent 10 different African countries across Sub-Saharan Africa. We have a growing portfolio of 29 companies that were incubated from our past incubation work, plus another 5 that we're busy working with now through our acceleration work. Almost all of these companies are still operating and making a difference in the markets they serve. And we've additionally supported over 200 early stage EdTech entrepreneurs through shorter term interventions, so boot camps and sprint weeks, and other ways to really just stimulate the growth of the ecosystem. So you can see here, I mentioned we've moved away from incubation. On the left, you'll see our primary flagship program. This is the Acceleration Partnership Program. So rather than incubation, we're now supporting slightly more mature companies who have already found some traction in the market. And these guys are making a significant difference in the markets they serve. They are right on the brink of major growth, and we're hoping to intervene and extend their capacity at the moment that they need it most. We're really excited about the first few companies that we've engaged with in this capacity. You'll hear from one of our acceleration partners, Meg from PlaySense, later today. And you'll hear from a few of our incubation alumni as well. So that's really great for us to see these guys continuing to make an impact beyond the program. Like I mentioned, we do some ecosystem development work. This looks like these short-term boot camps We have an online course offering that's made available to ideation and early stage entrepreneurs who are participating in those programs. We also host meetups and community events for EdTech stakeholders across the region. These, of course, have been a bit less frequent in the times of COVID, with in-person events not the easiest to coordinate, but we are still doing lots of meetups virtually and looking to start in-person conferences very soon. And then finally, the Ingenie think tank is a brand new arm of Ingenie, established this year in 2021. This is our research, advisory, and advocacy arm. It's really for Africa, by Africa. We're really excited about the capacity that we have now to create evidence, or to develop evidence for the continent, for our context, that's going to be relevant for EdTech entrepreneurs and for the greater ecosystem. This will also help us to attract more investment into the space, to work with partners like Holland IQ in a research capacity and make sure that everyone internationally understands what's actually happening on the ground in Africa in education innovation. So we're in the early days of this. We've developed some content, some really exciting partnerships going, and we're excited to see what we can do in the advocacy space as well. So I'll just quickly introduce our first 5 acceleration partners that we're supporting through our new flagship program. Like I said, you'll hear from PlaySense in a moment, and Meg can tell you all about what they're doing, the amazing work that they're doing. We're also working with 2 teacher training and support solutions, 1 Million Teachers and Instill Education. We're our very first 2 companies to come into the Acceleration Partnership Program. Trachosaurus is busy getting onboarded just now. We've actually worked with Trachosaurus as one of our first incubation participants back in 2018. So really excited to come full circle and continue supporting this company. And then Reflective Learning, also an incredible solution, doing some really innovative work in adaptive learning and focusing in on primary and secondary school, improving maths outcomes for these children that would otherwise be far behind in their maths competencies. So really excited about all of the great work these teams are doing. We wouldn't be where we are today without inspiring entrepreneurs like the ones you'll hear from today. And then finally, 29 other companies that we've supported in the past. You'll see Trachosaurus and 1 Million Teachers, both coming from our incubation alumni, along with many other innovative companies that we're really excited to support on an ongoing basis in our network. You'll also hear from Ambani Africa. Mukundi is on the line, and we'll be sharing more about her solution. So really a lot of inspirational companies here, just to say that things are really active in the EdTech space across Africa. So you'll see from the Africa EdTech 50 that will be launched in just a few minutes that there is a lot of exciting work happening in this space. There's a lot of inspiring entrepreneurs that are making their work, that are accelerating their work throughout the continent. And we're excited to see what happens from here. I think it's all been pretty positive despite really difficult circumstances over the last year and a half. I think, under the COVID circumstances, we've still seen quite a significant amount of growth across the ecosystem, some really interesting pivots and innovative thinking that has meant some of these companies that we've supported and others in the ecosystem have adapted to serve the changing needs of the education systems across the continent, with companies ensuring that their products are more accessible to those that are out of school, relating to school closures and other reasons. And it's just really, really great to see all of the innovation that's happening in the space, and more investment and interest really coming into the space as well, which is of course great for us as an ecosystem enabler to see that internationally African EdTech is getting the attention that we think it deserves. So I will pause there. Thank you, Patrick, for giving me an opportunity to share a bit about Ingenie and the work we do. Really excited to hear from the entrepreneurs and to engage with you in the audience as we go. Thanks
Wonderful.
a lot.
Thank you so much, Krista. You're right. These are inspirational companies, but the work that you and your team do really is an inspiration and makes me reflect on how far ahead the ecosystem likely is with the support that you give the team. As you know, we've been fans, supporters, partners through that period, and we're just really, proud and privileged to have you here today and watch all the amazing work, and then watch you evolve your program as well as as the ecosystem evolves too. So kudos to you and the team as usual for your awesome work. All right, let's move on to the 50. Firstly, let's talk about criteria or eligibility, if you like, and where we focus. So the Africa EdTech 50 really is focused on identifying young, fast-growing, and innovative learning and upskilling startups in the region. So generally, these organizations are less than 10 years old. They're headquartered in sub-Saharan Africa, or almost predominantly focused on the market. One company that we've wrestled with of late, for example, is Andela. It's a classic kind of headquartered out of the region, but really focused on the region, and then moving kind of borderline out of EdTech, kind of on the edge of EdTech. And so we wrestle with definitional issues like that. From a status perspective, we're focused on pre-exit EdTech startups, not a subsidiary of a larger company or an investor group. Focused on technology, not just software, and that's important in the African context as well, where there's a more broader thought process around what innovation in learning looks like. We don't include listed companies or mature incumbents. They're all grown up and at a new phase. We're trying to shine a light on the young and fast-growing teams. The criteria that we use in trying to work out which of the hundreds of amazing companies in sub-Saharan Africa to shine a light on, and that is the hardest part for sure. We look at the market, the quality and attractiveness of the specific market that team is focused on, the product, its quality and uniqueness and demonstrated impact, the team itself, its expertise and diversity. From a capital perspective, we look at the financial health. That's not just about raising lots of money. That's about being able to secure the resources that you need to continue on your mission towards your vision. And finally, momentum. So demonstrating positive changes in size, velocity, and impact of the organization over time. So without further ado, this is the 2021 Africa EdTech 50. Let me leave you to soak it up a little, but I'll give you a tour of the categories, and then we'll look at some different slices. I'm going to then ask Krista just to pause for a moment and hear her thoughts. And then we'll, the best part of this webinar, we'll hear from 4 of these amazing teams. So top left is online learning, a very broad category, but obviously in demand. Tutoring and test prep. Digital content is really big in sub-Saharan Africa. Management systems that are specific to the sub-Saharan Africa context as well. STEAM, of course, science, tech, engineering, arts, and maths is still big. And we've seen a real growth in workforce and upskilling in this category as well. Before I take us through just a couple of slices of stats on this, Krista, as you kind of look at this, what kind of stands out to you, or what really strikes you?
Yeah, I think, Patrick, the growing workforce and skills category is really interesting to me. I mean, this has been a trend over the last few years. We've seen a lot of activity in this space, and I think it's really a response to the unemployment crisis across much of the continent, particularly youth in Africa. So I think it's really inspiring to see that many youth entrepreneurs themselves are busy trying to solve for that problem very directly and create opportunities for other youths to become more employable, to create their own businesses, to be able to upskill themselves so that they can earn an income that's going to help sustain them and their families going forward. So that's really great to see. I think, Patrick, you and I were speaking about the sort of overlap between online learning and digital content, and how it can feel like those two are very similar. So I think I'll just mention that we struggled to actually categorize some of these startups, and I think many of them can fit into many categories, which is also good to see. You know, there's a lot of there's a big offering that many of these companies have, and they're not all playing neatly into one space. But it's nice to see the diversity across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the nature of innovation, isn't it? We wrestle with that as well. Is not everything fits in a nice, neat box, and we see adaptation and evolution over time. All right, just looking at a few cuts here. Really strong K-12. When we think about those categories, and how they span across a more traditional perspective, some small representation in early childhood. And as you can see on the right-hand side, that's growing though, compared to the 2020 cohort, a little less K-12 compared to last year. And as you can see, as we saw on the map there and heard from Krista too, workforce has really grown as a category with some growth in higher education as well. From an age perspective, I think this is really interesting. So, 40% of these teams are less than 3 years old. That is just a testament to how dynamic and how fast growth I think the Sub-Saharan Africa ecosystem is. We've got a quarter that are, if you like, the senior startups who have been scaling, probably some of those that are in your program, Krista, and really starting to hit new highs as well. And you can see on the right-hand side the change there, even more company formation through COVID in terms of that under 3 year cohort over time as well. From a category perspective, we've broken it down back to the categories on the map. As Krista mentioned, there's some fuzzy overlap here, but more generally, very strong representation in workforce and skills. STEM is really strong, digital content's really strong, management systems, and then a little small representation of language learning. You can see on the right-hand side, again, that workforce growth showing through, and some of those categories kind of stabilizing, getting a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller in terms of this cohort as well. Last stop before we hand over to Meg is from a country perspective, looking at Sub-Saharan Africa. There's obviously incredible innovation happening in all of these markets, but as we kind of really zero down there, we see very strong representation from Sub-Saharan Africa, a big increase actually on the 2020 cohort. Still really strong representation in Kenya and in Nigeria, and then wonderful to see representation from across the region as well in the EdTech 50 and that cohort as well. That is enough of the statistics. After, you'll get a copy of the webinar or a recording of the webinar after, so you can come back and reflect on this. You'll also find the map at holoniq.com. But let's move on to my favorite part of the session, which is actually hearing from some of these amazing teams. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Meg Fow, who's a co-founder at PlaySense. Meg, tell us about the work that you and your team are doing.
Thanks so much, Krista and Patrick. This is such a great honor. Yeah, it's a little bit about what PlaySense is doing. We really are about early childhood education. We believe that education starts in the youngest years, and that's probably our greatest area of impact. Having said that, we also know that parents of young children need to have a childcare solution in order to be economically active, and they trust that when they put their children into childcare, they're getting good education, and that's really something that's very close to our hearts, that we want parents to know that their kids are getting good education. But the third part of our kind of triangle, I guess, is that we think that teachers are under-supported and under-trained and often underpaid. And so a big part of what we do is focused on empowering teachers as well. How do we do this? We have an education solution that is offered in very small groups in homes that result in a very low infrastructure cost and therefore higher revenue for our teachers. So our teachers actually earn a lot more than teachers would normally in a normal school. A little bit about what sets us apart. First of all, we are an at-home offering. So the children attend the groups either in a teacher's home or in their own parents' home. And that's why we say we're infrastructure light. We have no more than 6 children. And the reason for that is that we believe that children actually need to be educated in small groups so that they can develop the core capacities for the future. We have an imaginary play-focused curriculum, and we conduct all of this through an agency or franchise model. We are also we're the very first program of its kind to be registered by the DSD in South Africa in November last year. A little bit about our platforms and what we have. We've got 3 tiers. At the top, you can see there the teacher training tier. So we train teachers. They spend more than 30 hours in our training, and they come out with a PlaySense certification. And when our teachers talk about how this changes their education or their journey, it really is probably one of our greatest, we feel one of our greatest areas of impact. We've trained over 75 teachers, and next year we will be opening 50 schools. This year we opened with 24, next year we're opening with 50. So we are training teachers thick and fast. Once they're trained by us, they go into our play-based curriculum, which is delivered in an online portal, and that can be delivered as an in-home program, which is in blue, or as an online or even a homeschool program where parents actually execute the program themselves. And then underlying all this, we have a website marketplace that connects parents and teachers. So just a little bit about our proprietary tech offerings. We have 4 stacks. The one is our operating system, which takes all of, and it connects the parents, connects the teachers. We have our entire billing system built there. And so our teachers can literally run their own schools through our billing system and through this marketplace solution. We obviously have our teacher training, and I was very interested to see how many of the education businesses in the top 50 were focused on skills acquisition, and we are very much focused on disseminating skills to teachers, not just through our 30-hour training, but also through our support network and ongoing training. Our 4th stack is our teacher curriculum, which is delivered on a digital portal, and it's drip-fed weekly so that our content remains proprietary and protected. And then, of course, we have our homeschool and online offering where the parents themselves can actually access a homeschool program for their children with or without the support of one of our teachers. A little bit about our journey. We launched in 2016. Beginning of last year, as COVID hit, we had to pivot from being an in-home offering only into an online offering as well. And on the back of that pivot, we secured seed investment from Enigma Ventures, which is a gender-lensed VC fund. And then in November last year, we were registered with the DSD. We've got our first license in the Middle East this year, which is in Dubai and Sharjah, and are looking to expand through the rest of Africa and globally as we go along. A little bit about our vision. Our vision is to move from 40 schools, which is what we're currently at, through to 400 schools in sub-Saharan Africa, and then offer a wider demographic offering. So that will expand that much more significantly because we're going to be focused on quintile 4 as an area of development for us. We will also look at international growth, as I mentioned, in what are called powered by PlaySense schools. So schools that choose not to use our entire operating system, but maybe just our curriculum, and to use teacher leaders to do that. So our teachers can actually elevate themselves and in that way actually earn more as well. And then finally, we are looking to build out our technology in a platform that can allow parents and teachers to create their own groups and be more autonomous. And then at some point also have a more flexible curriculum LMS, particularly for our homeschool offering. So we would love to connect with women who are looking for franchise opportunities in Africa, in education throughout Africa. We also are going into an investment round at the moment. It is our pre-Series A, and we would really love for businesses to come alongside us to support us as we grow. And of course, we want to assist parents to educate their children in homes with qualified teachers. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Wow, so impressive, Meg. So impressive to not just grow the way that you have, but pivot through COVID as well. So impressive to see, a team really tackling early childhood as well. We hear a lot about the gap. We hear a lot about just how important early childhood is, but we don't see as much kind of innovation and leadership as I think we all would like to see. So it's so wonderful and refreshing to see you and your team leading this, and with incredible growth as well in terms of how many schools you're looking to open next year. Just while we try and bring Mukundi on stage, what's kind of struck you as one of the biggest challenges, pivoting the business to where you are today and thinking about growth from where you stand?
So I would say that the biggest challenge in terms of the pivot is a nut that everybody worldwide is trying to crack, and that is how do you deliver online education to pre-K? Online education for primary school and high school is proving to be a whole lot easier because those children can concentrate and work through screens. But in early childhood education, that just isn't the case. And we really are working very hard at making sure that our curriculum not only ticks the boxes, particularly our online curriculum, not only ticks the boxes for parents to be able to execute with their children, but also that we can give them adequate support through our online teachers as well. So I would say in terms of a more online offering, that is a challenge for us.
Okay. Wow. So impressive. Thank you so much, Meg. Congrats to the work that you and your team are doing. Best of luck with all this incredible growth and plans. And thanks for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, we're having some challenges bringing Makundi on, so we're going to skip through a few slides. Let me just do that really quickly while we introduce Phoebe Kagami, who's the head of operations at mShul. Phoebe, we'd love to hear more about the work that you and your team are doing. Please tell us all about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick and Krista, for having mShul here. I will start by giving a brief introduction of who we are as an organization. And we are Africa's first personalized knowledge building platform to make learning new things impactful and accessible to everyone through what we call our lead toolkit, meaning learn, evaluate, activate, and data. We were founded in 2017, so one of the organizations that you have mentioned, 3 to 6 years. And our goal is to help organizations reach offline and households and communities more effectively through impactful, appropriate technology. Our features span short courses, from academics to life skills. So we deal with young learners of all different ages. And most of all, when all is said and done, we also help organizations and stakeholders collect data directly to inform program teams in decision makings. To date, we have worked with incredible organizations like Oxfam, VSO, and UNHCR. So one of the biggest challenges, and something that a lot of organizations represented here experience, is that a lot of learners, families and households across the continent are in working poverty. We have 87% of children in learning poverty. So reaching these individuals at scale is also a problem, because a lot of these things when it comes to implementing programs are actually expensive. Individuals don't have access to smartphones, connectivity, despite the fact that this has significantly improved over the last couple of years. We still have individuals that will be marginalized because of digital literacy when it comes to using online digital devices. And that's where we come in. We make gaining knowledge, skills, and aptitudes impactful, accessible, and affordable for everyone by creating high-impact packages for different specialized groups, like the youth, refugees, people living with disabilities, and those in the arid and semi-arid land regions. We do this through what we call our lead toolkit. I had mentioned that in the introduction. So how does this work? So using one platform, we are able to deliver learning, evaluation, activation, and data tools and services. We get people asking, how do you learn, or how can you learn anything via SMS? But when you think about it, we actually learn and collect data from sending messages to our friends, to our neighbors, to our colleagues all the time. So what we do is that we combine SMS with adaptive technology and incorporate the best learning methodologies to deliver personalized and tailored training, tuition, and data collection just through the basic phones. So learners can improve their skills like small business ownerships, academic skills, and literacy. And this came in especially handy last year with COVID, when a lot of programs that supported their beneficiaries or their users in person could no longer go to the field. A lot of these people have devices because mobile M-Pesa is world known. So people have their devices, even if it's just for sending money, receiving money. And we took advantage of that, the fact that people have devices, to reach them and to provide for them a solution at their point of need. So we try to make it as easy as possible to adapt or digitize existing program into simple, accessible formats. So the first thing we do is that based on the program needs, we can digitize existing content for micro courses, evaluation, or for surveys, or we can create new content for the program needs. Then when it comes to engagement, we work with the audiences by bringing them on board. And in the event that probably a program wants to target users that we have in our database, that is also an option that is available. We then enroll them onto the platform, and we use our Activate tool for interventions to support habit building as users start learning and interacting with their content and courses. As users progress, we automatically collect data on their engagement and survey responses and report it to the organizations through our web dashboard, which would explain the category in which we have been placed. So we make M&E and reporting easier. Then looking at this, the platform has these incredible superpowers, and I think ultimately looking at bridging the gaps. We are really unique in that we can address learners of any age and give all sorts of content to help combine program activities into one. Additionally, these solutions are accessible anywhere and anytime, even with the most basic of phones at no cost attached to the learner. And then personalized in that self-based with real-time data collection, the users can engage with the platform at any point, as I have said. And all this is available on under one platform. So we work with our partners every step of the way to ensure that the digitized program is a success, right from development, where we conduct user research and create profiles to make sure that we create content that is actually relevant to the user. Most of the times and most of the problems that we get to hear is that a lot of solutions that are created by well-meaning organizations do not actually meet the needs of the user. So one of the things that we do not compromise on is our is the creating and working on the user profile. Then we train and on board different program teams and users as well, because we want to make sure that the users are capable of using the platform and the program team can independently track the metrics that they get from engagement of the users of the platform. Then we launch the program, and most of all, when everything is said and done, we want to collect data to assess whether our solution has been impactful, and also plan for the next step of sustainable implementation. So to date, we have reached 20,000 households. In Kenya, we are in 30 counties. We have created more than 1.25 learning messages, and we have different content in our platform that is ready to be licensed. We started off just with primary school literacy and numeracy work, and now we have content, like I mentioned, in life skills, business skills, and professional development. The one thing that we are keen on at this particular time and point is to partner with different organizations to reach out to users of all sorts and kinds who are ready and willing to learn, but have been marginalized by solutions that traditionally just focus on smart devices. So please feel free to reach out to me at partnerships@mshule.com, and I know that we'll certainly make impact when it comes to building our knowledge, skills, and aptitudes of the different population. Thank you very much, Patrick and Krista.
Thank you, Phoebe. I just get blown away every time I see an update on mShule. Like you guys are so impressive, and it's getting so sophisticated, but you're still balancing like the essence of mShule of, you know, accessibility and, you know, being fit for purpose for the Africa context as well. It's always super impressive. You know, big congrats to you and the team. You're just going from strength to strength. It's exciting to see where you're headed as well. Congratulations on the work that you've done. Thank you so much for joining us today as well. Really lucky to see the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for saying that, and thanks for having us. Also very excited to see the different solutions and points of convergence with the organizations represented here as well.
Thank you, Phoebe. All right. Mukundi, I'm so sorry. We had some challenges bringing you on. I'm going to zip back through your slides and let you tell us more about Ambani.
No problem. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Mukundi, and I am the co-founder of an EdTech startup called Ambani Africa. Just to say, Ambani actually means to speak in the South African language of Chivenda. So the problem really, particularly in South Africa, is that you'll find that a lot of households are African language households, and only 8% of households actually speak English at home. But you find that in terms of school, 80% of schools are only teaching English or only teaching Afrikaans. The Department of Basic Education noticed this locally and introduced what they call the incremental introduction of African languages. So this is where schools, starting with primary schools or the foundation phase, were given a period of 2 years in which they had to introduce a previously marginalized African language. So the problem really with this is that even though you develop better thinking skills once children are multilingual, there aren't a lot of resources, as African languages are generally digitally underrepresented. So oftentimes teachers are teaching in the classroom, but there's a limited standardization to be able to teach these languages. And there's also very limited resources and methodologies for doing this. So we are an EdTech company that really makes early language learning easier by using technology-enabled content to achieve this. So our intersection is really between education, gaming, and language learning. Our pillars are education, so being able to really measure impact and to be able to make sure that we can give feedback and make sure that learners are actually learning something. Engagement, so making sure that learning is an enjoyable experience. And technology, so how do we really use technologies in ways that make this learning more engaging and more accessible. And digital citizenship. So this is really ensuring that our learners are able to use our technologies and that the technologies are achieving these outcomes of education and engagement. So we do this in a number of different ways, and I'll just take you through some of our products or content. One is through our books, which are augmented reality enabled. So this means that you can use the physical books, but also if you open them in our free app, which is available on a phone or on any device, then you're able to engage with the content in the language of your choice. And you're able to engage a little bit more. You're able to sort of see it come to life in augmented reality. I think the thing that we're probably sort of most public facing is our mobile application. And this is an app that anyone can download and it's free to use. It's available in 6 different languages and we're updating it with a few other languages. But really it uses gaming in order to teach foundation phase or early learners basic vocabulary. It uses gaming, it uses animated content and other teacher video lessons. So it's really how do we make all of these different content in different languages accessible for anyone to be able to use from home. We also work with educators or teachers. So we've got what we call Ambani at School. And this is really a web platform that offers teachers those resources to enable them to be able to teach these African languages in the classroom in a way that's engaging, but to also allow them to have standardized material that is aligned to the CAPS curriculum, which is the curriculum we use locally in South Africa. And so it allows them to use content. So it's sets of different stories and animations that have games that enable them to be able to teach, whether it's listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And they can either use this on their smart board, they can use it if they have devices in the classroom, but they can also use it offline as worksheets. So we're really trying to cater for all of the different scenarios in the classroom. And they're also through the back end able to use the resources to create their own lesson plans, or they can use the preset lessons that we have in these different languages. We've also got our social media project. And this is really where we use social media. I think it was at the height of the lockdowns due to the pandemic, where a lot of learners were at home and it was difficult for them to be able to learn online. And so we partnered with certain schools that enabled grade 1 learners to be able to learn reading strategies in their language of choice through WhatsApp. So they would, through this WhatsApp bot, they were able to receive daily lessons and they were able to continue their learning. So these are just some of the different products and ways in which we deliver, but really our intersection is that it's education, language, and gaming. So the current languages that we work with are isiZulu, isiXhosa, Bedi, English, because a lot of the learners want to be able to toggle between their language and English as well. Swahili, Chivenda, Setswana, and then we're adding Shona, Xitsonga, and Yoruba soon, and we're really intending on being able to expand to further African languages. We have grown in the past year. We currently impact over 10,000 learners. One of our key achievements recently is having won the MTN Business App of the Year a few weeks ago, but also having won in the education and gaming category, which really speaks to the intersection that I mentioned. And that is really just Ambani in a quick nutshell.
Very impressive, Mukundi. It's so wonderful seeing that list of languages before that you're supporting learners with, and hearing you talk about them wanting to toggle between English and those languages as well to support them across that journey. I mean, so impressive what you've achieved. And I'm excited about what's to come. I would have thought language learning across Africa and the diversity of language that you're looking at is going to be, in strong demand for the foreseeable future. So congrats to you on the awards that I can see in front of us, on the work that your team have done. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about the work that Ambani is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Mukundi. All right. Lucky last. Boy, you're following some impressive women leaders across Africa. No pressure.
Yeah.
Let me line up your presentation. We're just switching presentations and I'll let you get set. Boy, tell us more about Gradley.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm excited to be here. My name is Boyo Shinaga and I'm co-founder and CEO of Gradley. And Gradley is doing personalized learning across the K-12 category in education. And one of the reasons why we started this is we started realizing that, not just from international numbers, but even from anecdotes, that students struggle to learn even though they're in school. And the UNESCO number says that 90% of African children between the ages of 4 to 13 will not meet the minimum proficiency standards of reading, of arithmetic, and so on. And what Gradley wants to do is to help the system with technology to find learning gaps very early in the process, and then use content and tutoring to help close those gaps before they become failures at exit exam levels and things like that. And so Gradley's model is that we're offering assessment, content, and tutoring, right? And so the assessment will create an opportunity for the teachers to find where the gaps are, in the curriculum, whether that's reading or that's writing or that's arithmetic or sciences. Is saying, I taught a class for 45 minutes. What did my students not learn in that period in the class? And by using assessments, different formats of assessment, you can then take that out and then say, can we support the child's learning with video material as well as one-on-one tutoring to help close those gaps? And so Gradley has been working with a bunch of schools. We currently have over 40 schools right now, and before the end of the year, we intend to close about additional 20. So we are working with a good number of schools, and what we give them is a simple learning management system that has inbuilt in it assessment as well as video lesson content. And so the teachers can create assessment very easily and use that to figure out where the gaps are after a class. And then they can assign resources, and the system itself would also assign resources. So thankfully the slides are up now. I could just go through the slides. That's fine, Patrick.
That sounds great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so like I was saying, one of the things that kind of spurred the invention of Gradley is this problem that's right before us, that not just in Africa but globally, students are in school but not learning, and some of the things that we've seen are the legs for that kind of create that scenario is that traditional learning itself within the classroom, within class schedules and things like that are very passive. The teacher is really disseminating information, and there's very little opportunity for activity. At least here in Nigeria, this is the case across multiple schools, public and private, and we see that's also replicated across Africa as well. And then the second thing is the feedback loop, right? In Africa, most of the time we expect the report card at the end of a term. So they're like terms, school sessions are divided into terms. But by the time you find that report, it's too late because you need to move to the next layer of the curriculum. And so a feedback loop was much faster and a teacher could find out the gaps much faster, and then you can improve learning outcomes. And then last is the fact that teacher capacity varies from school to school, region to region. It's different from rural and versus urban and things like that. And so, if technology could help to bring the best in class teachers and make them available to every type of student, then that would definitely have an impact on learning outcomes. I see it's taking a while to load. Do I go on, or
how's that? This online learning that improves outcomes for you?
Yes. Okay. So the ingredients for Gradley's offering is, on one hand, is assessment, and the other is content, and then tutoring. So students take homework or practice on the platform, and on the back of that, the system then knows what gaps exist and then recommends video lessons. We have video lesson content partners, and we also have Gradley in-house developed videos. And so those videos are recommended on a daily basis for the students to kind of catch up on the concept. And if the gaps still persist, we then recommend one-to-one tutoring sessions with tutors. And we've seen what has happened is that over time, we've seen different kinds of students. We've seen people use Gradley for after-school tutoring. Gradley has been used within the school system. And we've had a couple of parents who are homeschooling with Gradley, and we have such great success stories with those parents. Gradley is leveraging the theory of mastery learning, which says that if an average student is tutored one-on-one using mastery learning techniques, they improve twice as much as conventional methods. So we're literally delivering on mastery learning. And when we show learning gaps and things like that, we do it against the mastery, 100% mastery percentage on topics and learning areas. So a typical example of how we work with, for example, schools is that, we sell them on the system, they get all their students on board, the teachers use Gradley to create assessment, and those assessments are used to find out students' weaknesses and strengths on an individual basis, on a topic-by-topic basis and learning area basis. So it's really granular, what that reporting looks like. And then Gradley already has a trove of offering in terms of content, and so it delivers that content. And like I said, tutoring comes in areas where there's a persistent learning gap there. And so you see improvements, and we've seen improvements up to 25% in children learning. We've seen grade level improvements, and we're presently doing some research in that area. So lastly, just to talk about what our impact is. First of all, in our journey, we've participated in different accelerators like Facebook. We're presently part of the Google Black Founders Fund. We recently participated in Nuskin Accelerator in Sweden. And we've grown to about 18,000 users. We launched February this year, so it's a quick ramp up, and we're growing over 20% on a monthly basis. Our impact to schools is that we're, especially for private and international schools, we're increasing the retention ability for the schools, because we see that parents switch from school to school. The average time a student stays in the school is a maximum of 3 years. And we think that, if the school did better in terms of just provide real-time progress on their children and things like that, it would reduce the churn that they have with parents. But on the student side, we're measuring this month-on-month improvement of over 5%. And in terms of teachers, we are providing training right now to over 1,000 teachers. 60% of the teachers who earn on Gradley, which are about 776, are female, and we intend to keep on growing that impact over the coming years. You can get in touch with us, a team at gradley.ng, and we can talk about how we could partner and work together to get to 1 million students learning and improving the learning outcomes of the students. Thank you very much, Patrick.
That's wonderful, Boya. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, super impressive how you're following that whole spectrum with the student at the start, supporting their learning, providing tutoring where required as well, and that feedback loop too. It really is impressive. It's no surprise you've done as well as you have, and we're excited to see where Gradley goes from here as well. So congratulations on the work that you've achieved on being part of the EdTech 50. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing more about Gradley with everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Boya. All right, we're just on time. Krista, I wanted to pause though just for a short moment and get your reflections on the ecosystem having having heard from those wonderful teams, I know that you're very familiar with, but just refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. These guys are all doing incredible work. I think what's most top of mind for me is the prioritization of access for all of these entrepreneurs. When considering the realities of the sub-Saharan African context, we can't take for granted access to solid internet connectivity or data or devices. And I think all of these entrepreneurs in their own way are trying to find ways around those limitations. And I find that really, really refreshing, really innovative, and just speaks to the sort of overall innovation that is exhibited throughout the region by our entrepreneurs. So yeah, I think these four companies were a great sample of the type of innovations we see across the EdTech 50, the Africa EdTech 50, and really would encourage those of you listening to take a closer look at all of the incredible startups that have been selected in this year's map, because I think they all have a lot to show for their progress so far.
Krista, is there anything at Ingenie we should be keeping our eyes on coming up soon for those who want to learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, please visit our website at ingenie.africa. You can learn more about everything we're doing, but particularly the Acceleration Partnership Program, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a new offering. We're really excited about our capacity to now really personalize the support that we provide to the ecosystem. So I hope Meg and the other acceleration partners we're currently working with can speak to our level of attention that we're spending with each individual company now going forward. There is a link to apply for the Acceleration Partnership Program available on our website. It's going to be live forever. It's a rolling application process, and we'll aim to get back to you within a few weeks after receiving your application. If you want to connect to me, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and we can connect that way. Otherwise, yeah, please do reach out, check out Ingenie's work, and check out the incredible startups that we've supported so far, including many of those you've heard from today.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Krista. Thanks for being a wonderful partner. Thanks again for doing all the work that you do for the ecosystem. Thanks for joining us. Congrats to the 2021 Africa EdTech 50. Kudos to the hundreds of teams across Africa who are actually doing incredible work. And we look forward to profiling in years to come as well. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Lots of love coming through in the emojis now. Thank you. Check out holonoq.com. The map will be up now for you to take a closer look at. Look forward to catching you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.